before 1994.
Yeah.
So in 1996, we started being counted everyone. So what it does now, to monitor the programs that have been implemented from 1996 to 2001 to 2011 up to now, we're able to tell what are the things that have been moving. If we had poverty reduction programs that have been implemented, we're able to tell what is the performance of those. So that is where it is very important.
Yeah.
Now to get to just unpack the results a little bit. Eastern Cape, on the 2nd of February, 2022, of course. Remember, census takes a snapshot of the country or a snapshot of the province at a particular point. So here, the results that we have are showing what was happening in the country as of the 2nd of February, 2022. In the country, we had 62 million people. In Eastern Cape, we had 7.2 million people. Eastern Cape has become the 4th largest province.
Okay.
In the last census, in 2011, it was the 3rd largest province. But we have been losing people. We have seen abantu abaninzi that are moving from the Eastern Cape to the Western Cape, and a lot that are moving to Gauteng. So we've been losing people, which is why we lost that position. Now Western Cape is number 3 and we're number 4. Okay. And these are the things that census bring, so that we see what it is that a government can do so that they keep people within the province. Also, Eastern Cape has grown the population has grown in all the 8 districts within the province. All of them have grown. The OR Tambo district being the most populated district with 1.5 million people. Followed by Nelson Mandela at 1.2 million people. BCM has been growing a lot. In 2011, the 3rd largest district was Amator. But right now it's BCM.
Okay.
Because most people move from the rural districts. It's urbanization. They are looking for better employment opportunities. Of course, now BCM has grown and it has become the 3rd largest province.
Are they above million or below?
They are a little bit below.
Okay.
Actually, yes, a little below a million. I think it's about 970 something thousand, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Okay.
So that is on the population side. Now, when we look at just the composition, who we are, we have observed that there are more women in the province than men.
Okay.
52% of the total population of the Eastern Cape, it's females. This, of course, is understandable because we are a labor-sending province. Most men bayahamba bayofuna imisebenzi koma-Gauteng, koma-Cape Town. That's why Western Cape is really taking a lot of our population. So even when you look at inhloko zamakhaya as Eastern Cape, like households, they are headed by women. 52% of households in the Western Cape are headed by women. That says a lot on the responsibility of women in the province. Now, one thing that we have seen has gone down is the number of the average number of household members, like bangaphi abantu emakhayeni.
Okay.
In the census of 1996, there were about 5 people in a household. Right now, it's 3.9, which means maybe we're no longer giving that as maybe we've realized that actually children are expensive. Yes.
Yeah.
Now in education, I'm going to just take things.
Yes.
In education, we had measured the first time the access to ECD programs of abantwana abana 0 to 4 years. I remember this was not there at the beginning, that but right now, since that has been introduced, which is a good number, because 6 out of 10 children in the Eastern Cape that in the ages of 0 to 4 years are attending. They're in a crèche somewhere, they are somewhere. And also, when we look at ages between the ages between 5 to 25 years of age, we see that attendance has grown over the years. I think it was 73% of this that were attending school in the last census. Now it's 77. So there's a lot that has happened, looking at the level of education now, when we look at those that are above 20 years, above 20 years,
Yeah.
we have seen that those that have no schooling at all, it's going down, which means people now are starting to go to school, even though badala, it's going down. Those that have matric, that have completed matric, it's going up. Those that have completed post-matric, it's going up. That's exactly what we would like to do. We would like to see.
Yeah.
So there is good progress. Now coming to service delivery, Mr. P mentioned a little bit of this. We have the government has done very well with access to electricity. There was only 29% of households that had access to electricity in 1996. Right now it's 95%.
Okay. That is now rural and urban.
Yes, everywhere in this.
Across the board.
95% of households have access to electricity. When it comes to water, we have challenges, but 80% of households in the Eastern Cape have access to piped water. It can be piped water in the dwelling, it can be piped water in the yard, or piped water in the community. But they have access to piped water. Of course, 20% of households still don't have access to piped water, which are the districts that Mr. P was mentioning.
Yeah.
Afrenzo is there, OR Tambo is there, Amatol. Those are the districts that need to make sure that people do get access to piped water. Even sanitation, there's been a lot of improvement in this Eastern Cape. When I check the numbers, there's only 1.6% of households that are still using bucket toilets. With these who are killing, there's a big reduction of those that do not have toilets. So and there's an increase in those that are using flush toilets. And lastly, I'm going to talk about agriculture.
Okay.
The Eastern Cape had the second largest households that are involved in agriculture after Limpopo. About 20% or so of households are involved in agriculture. And when you look at the top 10 districts, you will see that there's a lot of districts that are coming from the Eastern Cape, Mbizana, Andabangulu, Mpashe. Mpashe was number 1 in the previous census, but now it has gone down to number 8 or 9. I'm not sure, but it's still there in the top 10. You will see the top 10 are between KZN and the Eastern Cape. And also, most importantly, when it comes to livestock farming, Eastern Cape leads in the country. When we're talking about sheep, we're talking about cattle. These are the things that we need to concentrate on, support these households so that they are better. I think I've covered a bit. Thank you so much.
All right. Hleli naye kaloku Miss Ziyanda Ntlebi yena osuka phaya kwa-Stats SA wangamele apha kwiphondo leMpuma Koloni esinika ke kambe i-breakdown yezinto that are key. There is a lot in that report, but she was zooming in kwizinto ezikey. Umntu ofana nam nawe nje apho ekhaya kufuneka abe kanti uzazile. Nento ke siyivile into kubana iphondo eli likhulile ngokwamanani lisiba ngunumber 4 apha kumaphondo asithoba elizwe loMzantsi Afrika. Sayiva ke nento kokuba i-OR Tambo yiyo ehamba phambili. Loo nto yandenza ubana xa i-OR Tambo isithi 1.5 million kwenye yendawo bendikuyo namhlanje kuchazwa ngale nto yokufa kwabakhwetha, i-OR Tambo is leading. And maybe it's because it has a bigger share yabantu ngokolo hlobolo. So ibalekile ke lento bana xa sibona kuthiwa nasi isitampo sibekiwe ecangweni abantu baka-census bazobala abantu and all that, ekugqibeleni kuzokufuna uba kuziwe ne-information elolu hlobo. Phaa kubana ndiphinde ndibuyele apha kuwe Ziyanda, mandikhe ndiye phaa kuSephi. Sephi, le report ye-census ithi gqi le report kukhona a new kid on the block ekuthiwa yi-DDM nayo, that is about one plan one budget. Ingaba izayi-assista njani le process ngakumbi ke kweli cala le-communication, kuba siyayazi ukuthi each and every time i-communicators zidibana kuyathethwa nge-DDM. It's not a foreign concept anymore, but how are you going to integrate this information kwi-DDM comms?
In fact, to respond to your question, one important parting shot that my colleague has made is to refer to the Eastern Cape as a food basket.
Mhm.
Recently, you might be aware there was a release by the Human Rights Commission about the state of hunger in the province, which I find it very contradictory that in a province that potentially is a food basket. So for me, there seems to be a clear marching order for our poverty management strategies and plans by government. Departments such as your rural development, your agriculture, because Eastern Cape has massive land. And I think our communications ought to change and call people back to land. And I think if we can do that, we can complement what census has pointed, because the census is pointing to say, this is your gold. Now, how do you tap this gold and link it to these reports to these findings and recommendations as made by the the Human Rights Commission? To come back to your question, the DDM, in its conceptualization, it's all about integrated planning. You will find that before DDM, there was lesser participation of key sector departments as municipalities were planning their IDPs. But now with the report saying, for an example, OR Tambo, Amatol, you've got tons and tons of land, hectares and hectares of land. Eastern Cape has potential in agriculture. Therefore, it means that those departments must see themselves as active role players in the district development model. Because for those districts to realize their potential to feed their communities, their strategies can never be complete without departments such as agriculture and rural development, for an example.
Yeah.
So within the context or the substantive element of the district development model, it helps us, emphasize that as we drive the DDM forward, we identify common stakeholders, because DDM is not only a government program, it is an all of society program.
Okay.
So the results are pointing us to potential partners that must join into this march of the model and join us as government in trying to say one plan for one district. So it is important. Hence I said earlier on that it means even at level of communications planning, communicators ought to start doing things differently and design different approaches and take leaf from this report, that as we plan for a communication strategy, for instance, for ORTA, it's got to be different. It's got to have these elements as they have come out of the census report. Yeah, I think let me pause there, Mr. Nisi.
All right. No, thank you. Thank you, Sapin Dlala Pinyana from HSIS, Eastern Cape. Esibuyele kuwe ke Ziyanda. We do understand now that you are in the phase of disseminating and cascading this report to various stakeholders within the province of the Eastern Cape. Can you take us through this phase and the plan that will be followed?
Thank you so much. We have actually partnered with GCIS on this. We have a very good partnership actually on this. We need to make sure that planners, decision makers have got access to this data. From a provincial level, we need to make sure that we are able to report on the PDP of the province and say this is how far we are. At a local space, we need to be able to report on the IDP targets and say this is how each municipality is doing. So we are starting with the districts to make sure that each mayor in the district, all the mayors in the local municipalities have got access to this data and they understand. So now we'll be taking the status of each district now the status of each local municipality. It changes from being a provincial report, but it is specific to the district or the municipality that we are visiting. So we're starting that now in November. We have a plan where we'll be using the structures that they have already in these municipalities and provide presentations to them and clarity where they do not understand. But that doesn't stop there. We need to make sure that they have access to the data themselves. So we have a tool instead to say that we're using that we call Supercross, where you get access of the data and look for the variables in it, because it's got many variable sensors. There's a lot that I did not talk about today. That we cannot cover everything within the 2 hours or 3 hours when we meet them. So it is good for us to give them the data, train them on Supercross, even train them on the interpretation of data, so that in whatever corner they are in, they are able to use the data, and interpret it very well in their documents. So that is what we're going to be busy with, starting from November. We're hoping to finalize that by the end of March 2024.
Okay, and then so when you say you're taking to the district, you mean even the general
Yes.
community, the general
Yes.
public, they will get it from their municipalities.
Actually, we take it down even to the traditional leaders, to the ward structures, so that even a traditional leader understands the status of the people that they are leading in their administrative area. So we're taking it on, and fortunately, again, these are the stakeholders that assisted us to get to the people.
Yeah.
Because we used them during the awareness stage that the people should open their doors for us to come in, because this data is important. So we're giving back.
Okay.
This data to them so that they can use it for changing the lives of the people of the Eastern Cape.
All right. I think we have covered a lot. It's 24 minutes to 4 now, and I am definitely sure that people have absorbed everything that has been shared here. Your parting words, Sapi. But before you part, I did mention that tomorrow we'll be talking to IEC. Most people, they associate e-voter registration as an activity of political parties, and yet that's not the case. How important it is for people to go and register, and how is it linked to the communications as well?
Yeah, two things before I come to that question. What is also interesting, that I think it triggers some thinking from the census report, is the revelation that most households are women-headed. That's a very, very telling finding, that you would need to think around, as government, around your crime prevention strategies. You think around your gender-based violence strategies. You think around initiation and the deaths thereof. Because traditionally, isiko lolwaluko yayinto yotata. Now, as the Eastern Cape, now that the report tells you that the majority of households in the Eastern Cape are headed by women, then it means your communication should not be traditional in its approach. We need to cut those old myths that this needs to be discussed by men. So it's quite telling and thought-provoking, but I'm sure it's something that the province needs to think around it, because it's very useful information from a planning point of view.
Before ungene kule point ulandela kuyo, kwezinye ze-responses ezifumanayo, ukhona umama otshileyo into yoba bafuna imbizo yoomama kule nto yolwaluko, because kudala edibana odwa amadoda, and the kids continue to die. So ndiyazama ukuthi into yobana nesi state ke ngoku siyazama ukuyigxininisa le nto ithetha into yoba mhlawumbi iyafuna i-extendwe le mbizo kwaba bantu kuthiwa abanintsi ke kunathi. Yes, Sapi.
Yeah, indeed, the weekend that we heading towards it's an important weekend for South Africa's democracy. It's an important weekend because people have an opportunity to make their voices heard. In that fashion, that in our democracy, no matter how aggrieved you are about the state of governments, you have an option, you have a solution, and that solution lies in being in the voter's role first. And I think the message is clear. In South Africa, you do not vote if you are not appearing in the voter's role. And I think that's one thing that we will be emphasizing with the IEC tomorrow. And it's not for political parties to do that. Government has a responsibility to really upscale the levels of civil society, of civil education, make people understand that this democracy relies upon them going to cast their ballots. In many democracies, Mr. Nesi, I think we need to pride ourselves as a country that since 1994, we have managed successfully to hold elections that have never been challenged in any court of law. Our elections have been free and fair. We are a beacon of hope. So those are the things that as government we need to communicate and say the moment society is disgruntled and their disgruntlement leads them to not going to cast their ballot, then that could create a state of paralysis. So democracy in South Africa is vibrant and is sustained through voting. Yes, indeed, there is a need for voter education. There is a need for voter education. And I think one of the key messages that the IEC needs to leave or will leave tomorrow is that young people, a voting day is not a public holiday. A voting day is a day for you to go and cast your vote. And for you to cast your vote on that day that the president would announce, you must have registered. So tomorrow, this coming weekend is the weekend for young people who between the ages 18 to 24, because that is where our problem lies. Those are the ones that are so energetic and so argumentative on how things ought to change. But should they miss this week in terms of voter registration, then they are denying themselves of correcting whatever wrongs that they feel that they need to be corrected. So it is an important weekend. And over and above that, Home Affairs has declared their offices opened over this weekend, so that whoever is in need of an important document such as the ID, it's a temporal ID. So all those things will be accessible for both days, that is Saturday and Sunday. So it's important that young people embrace and take this opportunity with both hands. Thank you, Mr.
Alright, yeah, ngamazwi ke avakalayo uyatsho uMnumzana Phinyana ukuthi noba unomsindo ngokungenxa yoba imeko ziyiyo uthi anzowubhalisa. Ubhalise ukuba mhlawumbi lo msindo uzabuhlile ngalamini yovota ubungakhange ubhalise. So it's important that you register now. Hayi, ndiyacinga into yokubana ke mawasanele sithabathe elithuba lokuthi sinibulele ke Ms. Ntlebi naye Mr. Phinyana ngokusizisela olulwazi. This is compelling content indeed. Siza kutsho sithi kuni nonke nje bebesiphulaphule sibaba ngazibini kuni. Enkosi.
Thank you so much.